Our relationship, definitely, it's almost like an old married couple or like siblings, where we get on each other's nerves and we'll fight, we'll yell at each other, we'll lose our tempers, and then 2 seconds later, we'll be over it.
So excited to see you back on the challenge. And I know last year you told us that you weren't expecting to come back anytime soon. So what made you change your mind?
Felt like it was time. I took a 2-season hiatus. I felt like I needed to step away for a little bit to just kind of let my mind and body recover from the total madness that I subjected it to back in Prague and living in a bunker for 8 weeks. And I'm not gonna lie. After my 7th win and after that grueling final in the Alps, part of me did question whether or not I wanted to return. And then, COVID hit, and then we went through just a very strange time globally, and it didn't make me necessarily want to jump back in anymore either, just because I just didn't feel like most people, like myself. But once everything lifted and once the world kind of started getting back to normal, and once, I kind of started getting back into the swing of things, I really started to miss the competition, and I missed my home, and I just wanted to go back and not just prove to, I guess, the fans out there and that I still have what it took, but I wanted to prove to myself, and I wanted to see if I still had what it took to compete. And again, I just missed it. And watching season after season on TV, I host the podcast now about the challenge on the Ringer, talking about it every season and watching all these new competitors in the game. I wanted to get back in there and mix it up a little bit and see if I could go in and still make my impression felt. So I just felt like it was the right time.
Happy you made the choice to come back then.
Thank you. Am I or you?
Are you happy after all said and done? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, my biggest fear was like, what if I show up day one and like shit the bed and I'm like the first one gone? Like, obviously that was my biggest concern. But let's hope that doesn't happen. I'm not going to put that out in the atmosphere too much.
No, definitely. And I know you have a great partner with Nani. Tell me about this partnership, why it works. Did the two of you butt heads at all? Like, why was this the perfect partner for this new theme of the show?
So Nani and I obviously have a very long, very storied history, past relationship, whatever you want to call it. And it just worked because, I mean, if we're talking about the theme being ride or dies, I think maybe other than like siblings who were there, we fit the definition better than anyone. I mean, we've known each other the longest. We've been through the most together as partners, as friends, as allies over the years. And, our relationship definitely, and this is like the way that I've described it in the past, it's almost like an old married couple or like siblings, where we get on each other's nerves and we'll fight, we'll yell at each other, we'll lose our tempers, and then 2 seconds later we'll be over it. But because we know each other so well, and because we've been through so much together, and because we're basically like share a brain, especially when it comes to like being in the challenge, it just works. I guess it's like if you would compare it to like football or something. It's like when a quarterback has been working with the wide receiver for a really long time, they could almost like know what they're going to do before they do it, or know why they're doing something without even having the conversation. That happened this season so many times. Obviously it's a social game. There's a lot of strategy and politics going on. And one of us would approach the other one and be like, this is what I'm thinking. And before we even got it out, it's like, I'm thinking the exact same thing. So it really worked in our favor in that regard, just being as close and knowing each other as well as we do.
Yeah. I mean, was it a distraction for her at all, competing against Casey?
No, I don't think so, because we didn't really look at it as like we were competing against each other. I mean, we were working with them. Sure. Obviously, I mean, Nani and Casey are, in a very tight, very close relationship. And it actually worked very well for us, because between Nani and Casey, the relationships that not just that they have with each other, but then the relationships they had with other people in the house, it really made our social game a little easier, and it kind of neutralized some of the potential rivalries that I would have had I checked into the game on my own without Nani as a partner. So just walking into the game, where I'm generally used to having to punch in and go to work day one and have the entire house come after me, I'm not saying that people didn't want to do that, but it gave them pause a little bit, because then coming after me was taking a shot after Nani, which then was going to ruffle a lot of feathers other places in the house. So thanks to Nani, and thanks to, just her relationships and friendships that she had coming into the game, which she has, developed and maintained over the past few seasons that I wasn't there, really helped us come into a pretty solid, social game, just walking into the house.
Definitely. Who would you say going into it, who did you think was going to be your biggest competition?
Oh, man. I don't know if I'd say competition, but I think the biggest headache was going to be Devin. Mm-hmm. Devin and I have never gotten along, hated each other, have a very, very, storied rivalry that has, been very heated at times. And I just didn't know, again, walking in, like, what that dynamic was going to be like. So I was, a little concerned about that. But I was also concerned with just a lot of the, these unknown rookies that were going to be there, because, just looking at the way the numbers broke down, and we know going in, who, just based on our friendships or whatever, we know going in, which vets or which people we know are going to be there. There were so many rookies that this was going to be one of the first seasons I was going to do where we were going to be so outnumbered as veterans. It almost was like we were going to be the ones that we're going to have our backs up against the wall early on. So instead of being worried about, I guess, one particular pair, I was more worried about the numbers and the dynamics, and I guess the power dynamic in the house, and how that was going to be with rookies outnumbering the vets the way that they did.
Yeah. Fessy recently tweeted about getting more professional athletes on the challenge. What do you kind of make about that? Is he just trying to start drama to get on another season? Do you agree?
Fessy needs to put his phone down, okay? Fessy needs to stop tweeting, because, as much as we want to sit here and call the challenge the fifth major American sport, which in a lot of ways it is, at the end of the day, it is a competition show, okay? It's a reality show, and it's like we've seen in the past sometimes, and there's obviously exceptions to the rules, when professional athletes come on the challenge, they're not exactly cut out for it, because a lot of professional athletes are used to doing one thing and doing one thing very well. And they'll come into the challenge, and when the rules are kind of murky here and there, and the game's different every day, and there's so much house reality and drama and politics going on, and when they're so used to things being, again, set in stone and operating one way, they come in and it's like the challenge, you can't just be good at one thing, you have to be good at everything. So I'm not necessarily sure that that's like the right comparison to make. And there was obviously a lot said. I knew right when that tweet was fired off, I'm like, this is not going to age well. And it did not, because he obviously piqued the interest of Danny, who was the most recent winner of the Challenge USA, who just so happens to be an ex-professional football player. So he obviously had something to say about that. And then, Danny's wife got involved. And that's just, the fact that we're talking about it right now just goes to show that it caught a lot of people's attention. And unfortunately, I don't think that really worked in Fessy's favor all that well. So, yeah. Put down your phone. Put down your phone, Fessy.
Put it down. I know something else that caught a lot of people's attention was you and Tyson having some back and forth. Would you ever face off against him if he was invited onto the challenge?
Absolutely. As long as it's not pickleball or long distance running. I would love to go against him in a Sudoku puzzle, because we all know how good he is at those. But no, I would love that. Listen, for all the shit that I give Tyson, for, having, again, maybe him and Fessy should do the same thing and just put their phones down, because they like to say a lot of things on Twitter that get them in a lot of trouble. For all the things I said about Tyson, I think the CBS challenge would not have been the same without his presence on it. And I got to give the guy a lot of credit, because he, is one of the few people that I've seen in the past who have really been able to make the crossover from Survivor, from a Big Brother, into the challenge with relative ease. Now, granted, there wasn't a veteran presence there to kind of set him straight when he got a little mouthy here and there. But the challenge is it's a different world, man. And it doesn't matter what other competition shows you've done. It doesn't matter if you've won Survivor, if you've won Big Brother. Challenge is a whole other animal, just because the game, it's not necessarily the competition, but it's the house drama, it's the politicking, it's just how to strategize within the house. And after watching Survivor, because I started watching a few seasons after the season of the Challenge USA, the way people politic on Survivor is so much different. So only knowing that way of strategizing and forming alliances and politicking, and then coming into the challenge and like having to like learn that on the fly and be able to do it, I think that, you know, what he brought to the table in that regard was almost more impressive than what he did from the physical aspect. However, I stand by the fact that as much as he wants to say like, hey, you know, well, I made it to the end and I'll run circles around these MTV challenge people, it would have been a whole different story had there been a little more of a veteran presence there. You know what I mean? It's like me saying, yeah, if I went back and played T-ball, I'd absolutely like rape these kids. It's like, yeah, of course, because there's nobody there that's your age that's going to be able to compete with you, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. And I know that a lot of people would love to see you on Celebrity Big Brother. And I know you've been teasing it, you know, here and there. Would you ever do it?
Absolutely. I don't know if I'd last very long, because I hear from everybody that they say the same thing about Survivor. They're like, dude, because the problem with a lot of like these other shows, there isn't like necessarily there are in some regards, but there's not like the elimination way to like kind of save yourself. But I would love to. I'd like to do those shows just to be able to see how I operate in those different environments and how well I'm able to kind of take what I know on the challenge and apply it to, you know, a different show and a different format and a different strategy. I think I would have to keep my mouth shut, which is obviously difficult for me. That's never been my strong suit. Great talker, terrible listener, as you can tell by this interview. No. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. I think what would be more interesting is if they cast me for the next season of The Bachelor.
I'm here for it.
The Banachler.
It writes itself.
Right?
So, would you seriously do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if they brought me on, I mean, I haven't had a whole lot finding love in other aspects of the world, so why not try and do it on national television?
I'm here for it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Well, Johnny, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
You got it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.